Alibrand spoke. "Who is this old man who is standing before me? Tell me your name quickly, and give up your weapons. Then you might retain your life. But if you do not, it may lead to harm for you." And Hildibrand answered, "If you wish to know my name, you will have to tell me your name first, and you will have to give up your sword and your weapons before we finish. If you will not do that freely, then it will have to be by force." Alibrand raised his sword fiercely and struck at the old man, and Hildibrand struck back at him. A hard battle followed, and carried on for a while, twice as valiant as before. Now both of them became tired, and Alibrand set down his shield and rested, and Hildibrand did the same. Then Alibrand spoke. "If you tell me your name, or give up your weapons, then you will retain your life. But if you do not do so, then you will be killed. You did not wish to say your name when we met, and that was no dishonor. But now, you will have to tell me without victory." The young man became even fiercer, and wished to kill him for certain, and struck with all his strength against the old man, but he defended himself stoutly. Hildibrand spoke. "If you are of the family of the Ylfings, then tell me, and I shall give you truce. But if that is not the case, then I shall kill you." Alibrand answered, "If you wish to retain your life, then give up. But I am no more of the Ylfing family than you are, and you are certainly a fool, even though you are so old. Tell me your name quickly. If you knew who I am, then you would not call my father an Ylfing." They attacked again, even harder. And the old man went close to him and struck very great blows. And now Hildibrand struck a blow at his thigh, so that it cut the byrnie open, and Alibrand received a great wound, so that his leg was almost useless. He said, "Here's my sword. Now I can no longer stand before you. You have the fiend in your hands." And he put out his hand. The old man turned his shield around and stretched out his hand toward the sword. But now Alibrand struck secretly at the old man and set out to cut off his hand. But the old man shot his shield up quickly and said, "You learned that blow from a woman and not from your father." And the old man attacked so fast that the young man fell to the earth, and the old man sprang on top of him and set his sword against his chest and said, "Tell me quickly your name and your family, or you shall lose your life." Alibrand answered, "I shall never say that, and I don't care whether I lose my life or not, since I have been defeated by such an old grey goose." Hildibrand spoke. "If you will keep your life, then tell me quickly whether you are Alibrand, my son. If you are, I am Hildibrand, your father." The younger man said, "If you are Hildibrand, my father, then I am Alibrand, your son." Hildibrand stood up quickly from him, and Alibrand took his father, and kissed him, and looked at him. Hildibrand now became very happy about his son, and Alibrand the same about his father. They sprang onto their horses, and rode back to the castle. Alibrand asked, "Where did you part from King Thidrek?" And Hildibrand told him everything about how he had been separated from him in the forest, so that Alibrand and all his men rode out toward them. They rode out in the evening to see Alibrand's mother. She went to meet them, and she saw her son bloody and wounded. She wept and cried, and said, "My sweet son, who gave you that wound?" And Alibrand answered, "Lady, I will certainly survive this wound, even though it is not small. My father gave it to me. He is now riding here with me." And she now became very glad of her son and of her husband, and went to meet them, and each became glad of the other. Now Alibrand's mother bound his wounds, and they ate together that evening. And after that, they took their horses and rode to Bern. And the guardsmen came and wanted to close the gate. But Alibrand rode up to the gate, and the guard scarcely recognized him. And Hildibrand went and knocked the gate open rather roughly. The guardsman became angry, and he struck at Hildibrand with a sword, but he parried with his shield and received no wound. But when Alibrand saw that, he drew his sword and struck the guardsman on his neck, so that his head was taken off. Hildibrand spoke. "You have now done an evil deed, in that you have killed a man for no reason. That blow did not harm me." But Alibrand said, "Your armor kept it from hurting you. If you had not had it on, then I would have had the obligation of avenging my father, and then it would have not been without reason." And then they rode into the city, and were well received. Alibrand sent word through all the town, and had all the most powerful men in the city called to him. And when many men had come together in the king's hall, Alibrand spoke. "I can tell you good news. King Thidrek Tetmar's son has come to Hunaland, and he wishes to rule over his kingdom. Now you should decide what answer you wish to give, and whether you wish to serve King Thidrek or Zivka Balerad." One chieftain answered his speech and said, "If we knew that King Thidrek had come to Hunaland, and we could go to meet him, then I know every man's will here in this land. We have held out against Zivka and his men a long time, and we have waited for King Thidrek. All would rather die than have King Thidrek not regain his land. There was a great noise after this speech, and for a long time that night, all of them who were there called out and thanked God that King Thidrek would come to them. And some said that King Thidrek would now take his land, which he had long lacked. And we shall serve him and have no other as long as he lives. Some others said that it was untrue that King Thidrek had come to Hunaland. But Alibrand answered, King Thidrek has certainly come to Hunaland, and with him has come Hildibrand, the master of the Ylfings. He now sits next to us. He is my father. And now all called out at the same time and welcomed Hildibrand. Alibrand spoke now. If you wish to have King Thidrek as your king, all the best men should take their horses and weapons and ride out to meet King Thidrek. Now all the knights prepared themselves and rode out of the city. 700 men went with them, and they all rode their way until they came into the forest where King Thidrek and Duke Hlodver were. Master Hildibrand and Alibrand and all the knights dismounted and bowed before King Thidrek. The king stood up and went to them and kissed Alibrand, and there was a very joyful meeting. King Thidrek mounted his horse, and they all rode the road to Bern. They came near the city, and the burghers saw King Thidrek riding. All the people came out with all kinds of games and rejoicing. And when King Thidrek came before Bern, Hildibrand rode beside him with his standard, and Alibrand rode on the other side. He took King Thidrek's hand and put a small ring in it, and said, Mighty Lord, King Thidrek, since your kinsman King Erminrek, who set me over the city and directed me to watch all of Hunaland, has died, Sivka has never ruled over this kingdom. I shall give you this little ring, and with it I shall give you Bern, and all of Hunaland, and myself as your vassal, along with all my men. King Thidrek answered, and bade him be rewarded for this, and said that he would reward him well for his goodness. And now King Thidrek gave something to each of the knights. To some he gave large estates, to some good horses or other equipment, and all the best men gave him treasures. There was great joy among them. And after this, King Thidrek rode out to his court. He led Duke Alibrand and Hildibrand to his high seat. And on that day, he had no fewer than 1,200 men at his table. The king sent word to all of his kingdom, and summoned all who ruled over castles or cities or districts. And now many came each day to King Thidrek to give up their cities or their castles or other holdings. And thus, King Thidrek was able to regain his kingdom after having been in exile for such a long time in King Attila's kingdom of Hunaland. And so we've reached the end of today's episode of the Thidrekssaga, but invite you back here to the Hall of Sagenheim for the next one.